Student protests, funding issues and the long hours that sometimes go unappreciated. I mean, who'd want to be a lecturer? In today's Life Hacks feature, I spoke to anthropology lecturer Dr. Nosipho Ngumezulu, who, despite all the challenges, loves her job. Admire lecturers. You've got to be stimulating, otherwise your students will fall asleep and fail. You've got to be interested in your subject, know a lot about it, and really sort of live the topic. You've also got to deal with so many of the social issues which are plaguing universities in South Africa. So why would you do it? Nosipho is going to tell us why. How does it work? How do you become a lecturer?
You study for a very, very long time. So an undergraduate degree, usually an honours or a master's degree, and then ultimately a PhD.
And how do you decide which direction you're going to go? What are the clues that you should pick up on?
Certainly interest, so having the will to actually go back to a subject matter year after year and dig deep and be curious about it. And so for me as an anthropologist, it was a very long, circuitous journey into the subject area, but it also pulled along all my different interests to finally landing as an anthropologist.
So many people I speak to, there's no direct route, is there? Sometimes you delve into an area here that you like and then might find something else, and it all comes together at the end to not only be character building but determine your end game.
Certainly. And I think it also translates in the way in which you are then able to teach in the classroom and the passion that you're able to bring to the subject area. There's no textbook formula of this is where you start and this is where you're going to land, but your lived experience is a huge part in shaping the approach you take in the classroom.
Now, certainly in my motley post-school career, I never had lecturers who looked as funky as you. How important is it to engage directly with the students, to actually like people, and how do you master communicating well with them?
Sure. So, I mean, I think liking students, I don't know. I think all of us have different approaches, but you definitely need to be able to translate the subject matter to whether the student is an A student or really struggling and battling. And so I find that engaging directly in the classroom and not just sticking to the PowerPoint is the key to getting students to really interrogate how the subject matter relates to their lived experience, because if you can't translate that, it's very hard to get them motivated.
So taking it away from print and possibly not embellishing, that would be the wrong thing because they'd fail, but telling tales around it, telling stories, making it come alive.
Especially in humanities, I think being a keen storyteller is one of the key ways in which we're able to then translate what might seem quite abstract into how does this relate to your everyday life, and especially with anthropology and living in a country like South Africa where difference and diversity is such a key part of our everyday life. It's really quite, the material is just out there for you to be able to relate it to students, whether they're engaging in theories of nationhood or how is difference in culture constructed. It's out there for us to be able to pick from their lived experience to make these theories real for them.
And I know you got involved in a podcast dealing with changing the way we view education, coming from the sordid past, tackling the challenges ahead. Tell us a little bit more about that and where we are on the road to transformation.
Yes, so the Academic Citizen is a podcast that I am a part of with two other colleagues, Mehita Ikani and Kollega Shange, and it's a podcast about the various issues in higher education, and I joined it in 2016 in the Fees Must Fall moment, and so a lot of our questions were around what is transformation, what does it mean to make an inclusive public education system, and what does it mean to decolonize, and how do we do this from the human social sciences to the hard sciences. A lot of our work, especially in anthropology, has been trying to think very critically about how do we work with the difficult history of our discipline, with the very problematic history of our discipline, in order to speak to students in the 21st century where they're not only going to just be dealing with facts and books and case studies from yesteryear, but they need to be able to translate this in working in a globalized world. And so a huge part of my work is to be able to work with students as co-creators of knowledge and bridging that gap where they might not have the necessary knowledge or experience of particular theories, but they definitely have lived experience about being in this country, being educated in this country. And so students are really key parts in remaking and reshaping our curriculums. But I think we've got a great opportunity in South Africa to actually use universities as public institutions and promote values of the nation-building projects that we're up to in this country.
So if you had words of advice for a student, somebody who's maybe in another job, other than studying a lot, and let's talk about those with money and those who don't, what is the best way to get to where you are as a lecturer?
Curiosity and tenacity, I think, are the two biggest things. So you need to be curious about your social world and your own life, and that will translate into the enthusiasm you have about engaging with the literature, engaging with your participants when you're doing field work, which is a key element in becoming an anthropologist. And so it isn't necessarily only about the money, and it isn't necessarily about being a genius, but having that curiosity and having that tenacity are really key drivers. Whether it takes you, I mean, it took me 10 years, or it takes you 15 years, or it takes you 5, it's about having that drive to actually stick with the project and lean into the difficulty and complexities because you're curious.
And scholarships, if you are able to do that, where would you find out the information of where things are happening or needed?
So every institution has a research office, so I would recommend that you contact whichever institution you want to attend and find out what bursaries or grants there are. Of course, there's NSFAS, which is the biggest grant education provider in the country. There's the NRF, there's the NIHSS, but I think your best bet is to contact a particular institution and find out what opportunities there are, because often departments might have a bit of grant money to provide for students who are keen to study further.
Great, let's go and reprimand those students, should we?
Well, friendly chats. Friendly chats.